Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Johnny Cleveland podcast. It is a Saturday morning edition, special edition of the podcast. Welcome. We're calling this the Saturday QB show. We're going to try something new this morning, and thought with didn't get a podcast this last week, and thought let's try a Saturday morning, and we can talk what's happened in the previous week and follow up on some college football today and predictions for tomorrow for the Brownies against the Dallas Cowboys. So welcome to the show. This is the Johnny Cleveland podcast, and good to have you here. We are outside again in beautiful backyard of our beautiful condo. You might be able to hear the birds chirping. You might even hear a car roll by or beep like it did last time. And I think we had fire trucks. But hopefully it's not too much of a distraction if you're watching. Thank you for watching. If you're watching on Facebook or on YouTube, good to have you along. And thanks for tuning in for the next 15, 20, 30 minutes. And got a lot to talk about. It's been a busy week, has it not? Lots of things going on in the world of sports, in the world of politics, in the world, right? We're all keeping busy. Lots of things to keep track of. So start a little bit this morning. Actually, it's afternoon here, just past noon. But back there in Kansas and out west, it's not noon yet. So it's still kind of the morning show. We'll get this on earlier in the morning on Saturdays, hopefully starting next week. So Indians, wow. Well, they had a good season. It was a weird season, shortened season, 60 games. And, they got off to that. They had their first playoff game against the Yankees, and you kind of had a feeling that it was not going to go well. Shane Bieber was pitching, who's potentially the Cy Young Award winner for the American League. He did not have his stuff. He gave up a single quickly, and then on like the fourth pitch of the game, gave up a 2-run homer, and from there to Aaron Judge, the huge, massive player from the New York Yankees. Man, you look at the Yankees lineup there, it seemed like everybody was a giant. They were like over 6 foot. They looked like they were 250 or 300 pounds. They all looked like they could smash the ball. And the Indian players just don't look like that. So it does pay to have a $137 million contract like the Yankees do, compared to the Indians' 30-some million dollar contracts for their team, for their payroll. So Shane Bieber just looked uncomfortable to me. He looked like he just was nervous, didn't want to make the wrong pitch, wasn't very confident after the game. He talked a little bit about that as well. All along we've struggled. The Indians have with their offense. They've relied on their pitching. And I said before those two games came on that, if they did not have the pitching, they were in trouble. And that's basically what happened. That first game, they didn't get a lot of runs. I think the final score ended up 12-3, but it wasn't even a contest after, the early home runs. That second game, Cookie Carrasco pitched a good game for the Tribe. They actually had the lead early, up 4-0. They had that weird rain delay where they had it. They started the game. They delayed it. Then they started the game. I even looked at the radar before they started the game. There's this big line of storms. Your meteorologist here in Johnny Cleveland. And I didn't know why they were starting it. So they started the game, had like a half inning, and then they shut it down again. So that obviously doesn't good for the both starting pitchers. But Cookie pitched a pretty decent game. But Indians had the early lead, thanks to folks, again, like Jose Ramirez. However, they gave that lead up again. Yankees then actually took the lead. Indians fought back, which was great, admirable. Got the lead late in that game, 9-8 going into the ninth inning. By the way, it was the longest 9-inning contest, I think, in the American League in recent history. It was almost 4 hours and 15 minutes. So they had the lead going in the ninth, and our great bullpen, our bullpen just was not there, and Brad Hand came in, and, we're always uncomfortable watching Brad Hand pitch. He just doesn't seem like he always knows what he's doing. And again, they lost the lead and lost the game. That was the series, short series, because it was the wild card. They ended up losing 10-9. So, thus, the Indian season is over. So the questions now become, what happens with the Indians? Are they going to have a new name? What about Frankie Lindor? I just all year it felt like he was constantly thinking about that, and what's going to happen to his future, and that really affected his play. When he was interviewed in the last couple of days, he says that he'd like to come back to Cleveland. But, I think, the Indians would probably be best suited at this point to get something for Frankie Lindor, and instead of letting him play throughout the next season, to maybe get a trade, get something back in value, because you're not going to be able to do that if he stays for another year and he goes up in the free agency. So we'll see. The Indians, it's funny. It's, after these games, there was a lot of folks talking about how, well, the Indians haven't won, the World Series since 1948. I realize that, folks. And they did go to the World Series in 54, and they did go to the World Series in, 95. So, I'm not one of those, the Indians will be back again. They will be back. They'll be a playoff team. So it's not all that depressing. It's really hard sometimes. I'm pretty particular and uh, point out a lot of criticisms for the Indians, but they are a solid organization. They have solid management. They have a good core of players. They'll be back. The Cleveland media, who they've been around, some of them have been pretty critical, and it's like, oh, here we go again. We can't win a series. They have been to the playoffs for the last 5 years, and so let's hang in there with the Tribe. They'll probably have a different name, maybe the Spiders. Who knows? But it was a good season. It was a difficult season. We didn't know if they were going to have a season until late July. So the fact that we got some baseball in is all good, and I'm excited. We'll see what happens next year. I do think Frankie Lindor might be on the trading block. We've got good, strong pitching. I think that will carry us through again in the next season. All right. So in other baseball stuff, the big story today, Bob Gibson, the late, great St. Louis Cardinal pitcher, died earlier. He was 84. He had pancreatic cancer. He was just a tremendous pitcher. Between 1959 and 1975, he was just dominating, especially in the mid-60s. 1968, for example, he had a 1.12 ERA. He had 47 scoreless innings during one stretch of that season. In that stretch of those games he pitched, in 28 of the 34 games he pitched, complete games. He pitched all 9 innings. Of those, he had 13 shutouts. That's in 1968. He had other various just amazing things. He was a 2-time Cy Young winner. His overall record was 251 wins, 179 losses. In World Series appearances, he was very dominating. I think in 1964, he won games 1 and games 4 for the Cardinals. He was 7-2 overall in World Series games. You think about that. We talk about how Shane Bieber did, and like we used to have Corey Kluber, and how they would just kind of fall. They get nervous. They just don't perform like they did in the regular season. Bob Gibson was feared. He was a great, great player back in his day. So it's sad that he has died. But just if you get a chance, if you're young and you haven't really followed old players and gone back and looked at some of his stats, I would urge you to do that, because he was one in a million, and worth looking up and doing some research. So in other baseball news this week, so the Cincinnati Reds made it to playoffs. Talking about Ohio teams, but they got shut out in both games. Trevor Bauer, the former Cleveland Indian, pitched an outstanding game for the Reds, but he probably thought he was pitching for the Indians, because the Reds in that game 1 had several opportunities throughout the game where they would load the bases, put a couple guys on base, and again, they would not score any runs. They were shut out in both games, so the Reds are out. My favorite kind of early team that I'm kind of following, rooting for in the National League, are the San Diego Padres. The reason I'm following them is that they're young and they're exciting. I'm trying to think, Hosmer, forget his first name, but he used to play for the Kansas City Royals. He's playing for the Padres now, so I really like him. I also like the Padres uniforms. So if you get a chance to watch the Padres, they have the really cool sort of, they're going back the classic sort of brown gold uniforms that they've worn over the years, but these uniforms are really sharp this time. So been kind of cool to see that. So I'm going to root for the Padres. I'm not going to be rooting for the Yankees. Gosh, I hate the Yankees, right? Don't we hate the Yankees? Man. All right, so that's some baseball news. NBA, the Los Angeles Lakers, led by the LeBron James, the king, to have taken a commanding 2-0 lead against the over, group of Miami Heat players. Yes, they've done really good, but they have struggled of late in this last couple of games. I look for the Lakers either they might sweep them here in the next two. Maybe Miami gets the next one, but you got LeBron. The King James is going to get another NBA championship, which he mightily deserves. I do, I don't loathe the man. I still follow him, and it so interests me. And we've talked about this in another podcast about how half the country just hates LeBron for various reasons. Some of it is political, which is just out of bounds to me, but we can have that more discussions on that topic in the future. But LeBron is helping lead the charge there for the Lakers. Interesting side note, late this week or yesterday, Kyrie Irving, the crazy Kyrie Irving, who did hit the game-winning shot for the Cavaliers back in 2016 that won the championship. And for that matter, I will thank him, because without him hitting that shot, the Cavaliers might not win the championship. So I have that, but he's pretty nuts. And he went on record a couple days ago on the radio. He was being interviewed about playing with Kevin Durant. And he basically said it's the first time, Kyrie says it's the first time in his career that he's been able to pass up the ball to another player and be confident that he will hit the game-winning shot. A real dig at LeBron, which is just unbelievable. You're talking about the greatest player in modern time right now. Outside, we're not talking about Michael right now, but currently with LeBron out there, he's the best player out there. Kyrie really just very insulting on many levels. So we'll see where that goes, right? Always fun with Kyrie. He thinks the world is flat still. All right, so college game day today. Some of the early games have started. I know that. Last week was interesting. I'm from Kansas, and I'm a big Kansas State Wildcat fan. So it was kind of cool. The Wildcats, K-State upset Oklahoma. Oklahoma, again, the Big 12 is just all run and gun. No defense in the Big 12. And K-State was down like by 20 or 24 points. They were able to come back on Oklahoma, down in Oklahoma, and pull the upset. At that time, Oklahoma, I think, was ranked number 3. Oklahoma was always overrated anyway. So Kansas State, good job to them. They always are well coached. And, I've had some really fun experiences there down in Kansas at Kansas State when I was living out there, and I'd go to several games. If you get an opportunity to go to a college game, you want to be in a real college town and an atmosphere, I would strongly urge you to go to Kansas State, Manhattan, the little apple there in the heart of Kansas, and catch a game. It's quite something. You park in the neighborhoods around the campus, and then you walk to the stadium that's kind of out and about, and the atmosphere is exciting, electric. And I've got to see them play Oklahoma. I've got to see them play Nebraska there at Kansas State. And it's a real great college town, great environment, great people out there. So today, Kansas State is playing Texas Tech. And so good luck to the Wildcats, Texas Tech, who they don't have a running back. They just throw the ball 85 times in a game. So run and gun. So other games today in the SEC, you got Alabama playing Texas A&M. That should be, is Texas A&M. That was the headline today in ESPN. Are they overrated? Obviously, Alabama I think will run away with that game. You've got Auburn against Georgia. Georgia's not very good this year. Auburn, I think, is going to. Well, no, actually, I was thinking of Clemson. Sorry, Clemson's playing Virginia. So Clemson, I think they'll run on all over Virginia. Auburn and Georgia, I think Auburn's strong this year. Georgia's doesn't really have a lot, so we'll see where that goes. But locally here in Ohio, we got University of Cincinnati. The Bearcats will be playing University of South Florida. So look forward to seeing some of those games. All right, so on to the Brownies. Last week, I had my picks and did pretty well, except for the Bengals-Philadelphia game, which I picked the Bengals. That ended that game in a tie. Oh boy, a tie. Ugh. Remember that tie the Browns and the Steelers had a few years ago? That sucked. So I ended up 4-1-1 this week. And so let's talk a little bit about the Browns-Cowboys. Before I get to that, the other big headline in the last hour in the NFL, which might have a big effect again on playing tomorrow for some teams. Cam Newton, the new quarterback for the New England Patriots, tested positive for COVID. So everything's in delay pattern right now. The New England Patriots were expected to fly to Kansas City today, but it sounds like that's off the table. Earlier in the week, Tennessee and Pittsburgh were scheduled to play, but several players from Tennessee got COVID as well. That game has been now postponed till like week 7 of the NFL. So there won't be any Tennessee-Pittsburgh game. And got a feeling that there's probably not going to be a New England Patriot-Kansas City game based on the news that I'm seeing in the last hour on Twitter. I'd love to see that game played, but if he has COVID and they're testing other players, that could all change everything very dramatically. So we're going to have to play this week by week, and that's kind of what the NFL is doing. It seems like they have pretty good protocol. It was a surprise. I saw the headline just about an hour ago and was like, ooh, that's kind of big news. So that wasn't going to be one of my games I was going to pick this week with the New England and the Chiefs, but I took that off my pick list because we don't know what's going to happen. So the Browns and the Cowboys are scheduled to play tomorrow. So far, I hear that everything's good with that. There's been a lot of talk this week about Baker Mayfield and Dak Prescott. And but we've also talked about in the past that, Baker, is this a game of Baker against Prescott? I don't think it is. Some people are getting upset because some folks are saying, well, Prescott's a better quarterback than Baker. He might be. He's been around the league a little bit longer, and he throws the ball quite a bit more. He's a lot more yards, completions this year, but Baker hasn't needed to pass the ball very much. He's got the best 2 running backs in the league right now. By the way, speaking of the running backs, Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, there was some discussion by the Browns offensive linemen earlier in the week that they were saying, I think Joel Bitonio was saying that in the huddle and really throughout the game, and I've mentioned this before, Nick Chubb doesn't talk. Like, he's like extremely quiet. Like, he just plays football. He does not talk. He doesn't talk to his teammates. And Joel Bitonio basically said it's like polar opposites, like fire and ice, which was the question of the day earlier in the week about a new nickname for the Browns tandem of Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb. How about fire and ice? I think that sounds pretty cool. I think they should go with that. I like that. So fire and ice going to be in the backfield against the Cowboys, and I think this game's going to be very interesting. I'll give you my prediction here in a minute, but let's talk about the other games that I'm looking at this week. The LA Chargers are going to be playing the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, led by Tom Brady. The Chargers are traveling across the country, and I think that Tom Brady will be prepared and ready and do what he does. And so I've got the Buccaneers winning against the Chargers. The Vikings and the Texans. Man, here are 2 teams. They're both 0-3. Who would have thought the Minnesota Vikings and the Houston Texans would both be 0-3? Now, granted, the Texans played like the Chiefs week 1, and they've had a pretty, they've played some other tough games, but these are 2 teams that normally are winning at this point in the season, especially the Vikings. So the Vikings are going to Houston. I think the Texans are kind of falling apart. And if the Browns season continues and we don't get any delays, or, I look at those two games when the Browns come back from their bye week against the Houston Texans and the Philadelphia Eagles. Some folks earlier in the year when they were making predictions were like, well, those are going to be two hard games to win at home. But the more and more I watch this Texans team, I don't see that they have a lot of confidence right now. I think the Vikings are going to get this win. They're going to finally get a win in the win column, and Texans will continue to be they'll go to 0-4. The next game I've got is the Eagles against the 49ers. Look for the 49ers. They'll be back home against the Eagles team who just had the tie with the Cincinnati Bengals. Oh, my gosh. So I look for the 49ers to continue to roll, but you never know. This might want to be one of those games in the NFL where it looks like, an easy prediction, a slam dunk, but it's who knows. But I'm going to go with the 49ers. Next game on the list is the Falcons against the Green Bay Packers. And I'm telling you right now, the Packers have something to prove this year. And Aaron Rodgers is on a mission. I look for the Packers to be very strong throughout the year. I think the Packers have a very good shot at going all the way to the Super Bowl. How about Browns-Packers? That sounds pretty cool. I look at Aaron Rodgers as really being, like I said, on a mission, and I look for them to beat the Falcons. The Falcons are falling apart. I don't think they've won a game either. I have Matt Ryan as my fantasy league quarterback, but I don't see them pulling this out. They're playing that game up in Green Bay. The next game I've got the Seahawks traveling all the way to Miami to play the Dolphins. Now, the Dolphins are solid, and I actually, early on in the year took the Dolphins. But again, I'm going to stick with the Seahawks until they lose. The Seahawks are with the win over the Dolphins. Russell Wilson, again, is really top-notch quarterback. I mean, if I had to take two quarterbacks outside of Baker, which probably I wouldn't take, but, Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson at this point. So, getting back to the Browns game. I think this game is going to be very close. I think early on, both teams are going to score. I could even see the Browns taking the lead early on. I could see Dallas coming back, maybe taking the lead going into halftime. The Browns will continue to rely on their two running backs, Fire and Ice, Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb. And then I continue to see a lengthy, drive by the Browns, probably late, like third quarter, early fourth again. And I think the Browns defense will come up with some stops, maybe a turnover. Dallas has had a hard time the last several weeks getting off to fast starts. So I could, even see it where the Browns take maybe a 10-point lead and Dallas comes back. But in the end, I think the Browns will win the game. I have a final score of Browns 24, Cowboys 23. With the win, I'm going to stick with them. Right now, my overall record through the weeks, we're 12-5 and the tie 1. Thanks, Bengals in Philadelphia. Appreciate it, Eagles. All right, so there's my prediction, and we'll see what comes to be. So tomorrow night, or tomorrow after the game, we're going to have the game on at 1 o'clock. Again, it's going to be down there in Jerry's World, that Cowboy Stadium. And after the game, we're going to have our dog post-game show. I believe we're going to have some special guests on. I think Alec and maybe even Mo Money will be joining the show, talk about the Browns' hopefully big win over the Cowboys tomorrow night. So we'll look forward to doing that. Probably have the show here on Saturday mornings. Let me know what you think of the Saturday morning show. And if you like having it on a Saturday morning, like I said, we've been doing the podcast a lot on Mondays and Wednesdays and Fridays, but since we're doing the post-game show now after the Browns game, we're going to be doing that for the next several weeks. I thought, well, let's do that show and maybe a midweek show and maybe a Saturday morning show. So if you like that format, get back to me and let me know. You can email the show. I've also got, let's see here, we've got the, I can't pull it. I'm trying to pull up my, there we go. It's right there. We got the, you can reach us on Facebook and Twitter at jclevelandpod. You also have the email here. Give that to you guys. It's the jclevelandpod@gmail.com. I would love to get your take on some of the questions I had tonight. But again, I hope you all have a great rest of your weekend. It's beautiful out here. I don't know if you can see out here. We're having a good day out here. Beautifully sunny here in the Buckeye State today. A little chilly. I'm wearing some shorts, but I was in Kansas all those years, so I'm still wearing shorts, even though it's 45 degrees. So, all right, everybody, have a great weekend. Look forward to talking to you more tomorrow evening, tomorrow late afternoon after the Browns win over the Cowboys. Until then, everybody, remember to keep smiling. Take care, everybody.